Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Space Between. My name is Zach Eichels. I'll be your host for today. Today, we're joined by
Brian Palmer. I'm the Deputy Director of Community Economic and Development and Code Enforcement Manager.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Brian.
Yes, thank you.
We're going to go through some questions, and let's see what you got for us. Can you tell us about the role of a code enforcement officer?
Sure. A code enforcement officer enforces the codes within the city. They enforce the City of Cape Canaveral Municipal Code. They also enforce the Florida Building Code. We also enforce the International Property Maintenance Code, along with the Fire Code. It's a bunch of codes that we enforce, along with Florida statutes.
Okay, cool. What is, quote unquote, the code that code enforcement actually enforces? Where does that code come from?
Numerous places. It comes from the City Council. They put the code into place for us to enforce. That's our code. That's our primary code. However, we also enforce a Florida statute, which is a state-based code. The state puts down the code for us to enforce. And then, of course, you go into the other state codes like the Florida, like the Florida Code and International Property Maintenance Code. Everything I mentioned before is just a litany of codes that we enforce. So we have to know a whole round. It's not just one code.
And there's like a book.
Oh, it's a huge book.
It's a big book. Can you give us a few examples of what a code violation is?
Code violation is basically anything that violates the code, which is, once again, all the code books that I told you about, all the laws that we enforce. Any violation of that can fall under violation of the code. Now, there's different types of violations of the code. There's your standard violation of the code, which is a regular violation like a tall grass and weeds, let's say, right? If it's a property that has a building on it, which is an improved property, we call it, your grass cannot be higher than 6 inches. And I bring that up because that's the easiest one to kind of go over. Your grass can't be taller than 6 inches, correct? So if you have grass that's 9, 10, whatever, that's a violation of city code. So that's a violation of the code, and that's how that we enforce that.
Okay. If a neighbor refuses to mow their yard, is that a code violation?
Yes. Depending on how it is, if it's like I just got finished saying, if it's over 6 inches, then it's a violation of the code. There's also other portions of the code that talk about weeds, talk about tall grass, weeds, talks about letting your grass grow in the cracks of the sidewalk or in your driveway or what have you. There's a lot of things that come into play when with a simple question like, is my, there's not a simple answer, let's put it that way.
How would one report a violation?
Easy. You can call us at City Hall, 321-868-1220, and you can ask for a code officer. The lady that answers the phone right there, she can take a code complaint. You can see a city employee. They can take a code complaint. You can fill out the form that's online and send that in to us. As a code complaint, there are numerous ways that you can file a code complaint with the city. You can actually reach out to a code officer too, and you can file a code complaint with them.
Okay. If someone complains about my property, can a code enforcement officer enter that property without my permission?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. A code enforcement officer without the permission of the property owner or the tenant can only go where, let's say, a pizza delivery man can go. They can go from the right of way straight to the front door and knock on the door. They must have permission to go anywhere else on the property. It's called the expectation of privacy. You have a certain expectation of privacy on your private property. So we can't just walk around your property without permission.
Okay. To that end, can a code enforcement officer cite my property without a complaint?
There are two different types of code enforcement in the city of Cape Canaveral. One of them is reactive, and that's when we get a complaint. We go out and we see the complaint. We make sure that the complaint's valid. In other words, that there actually is a violation on the property. And then we cite that violation. The other one is proactive. Our code enforcement officers are out there. They're driving around the city. They're looking at properties. They're trying to find violations to see if there is, anything that we need to address. If they see something, a violation or what have you, then yes, they can cite it without a complaint.
Okay. Do code enforcement officers let me know that there is an issue before they cite?
Yes, we always send somebody a notice. We do a door hanger, which is like a courtesy notice, or we'll send one of them in the mail, a little courtesy notice. It just tells them, hey, look, this is the violation. Get a hold of us and talk to us about it.
Okay. Is there a specific amount of time to get things repaired if something is cited for such a thing?
Yes, we're instructed to give them reasonable time. That's what the code states. Give them reasonable time to correct the violation. So, in other words, if you have tall grass, we don't say you have 30 days. That's not reasonable. You can do it in 5 days or 10 days or what have you. However, if your house is falling down, 5 days isn't reasonable. The code does state prior to taking them to a special magistrate that we have to give people anywhere from 5 to 30 days to come into compliance with a violation prior to taking them to the special magistrate.
Okay. So what is a notice of violation exactly, and how is that different from a citation?
Well, a notice of violation is the actual legal
3-2-1
paperwork or what have you that we send to the property owner to tell them or to inform them that there's a possible violation on their property. And the reason why I say possible violation is because we've seen the violation, the code officer has. However, we haven't taken it to the special magistrate yet. So we're advising you that there's a possible violation, and here's your time frame to get that completed. The civil citation on the other side is actually a fine. Okay, so there are certain codes that we can issue civil citations to. Those civil citations have a money value to them. Each one has a different monetary value, if you want to state that. We have to issue a warning citation prior to. That's in the Florida statute. We can't do anything other than issue a warning citation first. After that, if it happens again, then we can issue an actual citation.
Okay. What if someone is unable to come into compliance within a given time frame?
If you're unable to come into compliance, then I would suggest that they contact the code enforcement officer or the code manager, so we can work with them on the time frame. We normally don't go above 30 days or 60 days until we take them to the special magistrate, and then we can always ask the special magistrate to give them more time or what have you. If you don't come into compliance, not that you don't have the ability to, if you just don't come into compliance, that's when we go to the special magistrate.
Okay. And on that note, what exactly is a special magistrate? What is their role in determining code enforcement fines or violations and whatnot?
Of course, special magistrate he's like a judge. Okay. So he's been hired by the city to hear cases and to rule on those cases. So what we do is we send a notice of violation, which is advising them of a possible violation on their property. That individual doesn't come into compliance. We schedule a hearing for them. They stand in front of the magistrate and we present a case, and then they can, give their information to the magistrate also. It's a part of due process. You have to allow somebody to answer to what we're accusing them of. And then the special magistrate will rule on that. And the special magistrate will either find them in violation of city code or not find them in violation of city code. If he finds you in violation of city code, then he'll probably more than likely give time. We always ask for time first. Give them 30 days to come into compliance. Let's work with the people, because that's what we really want to do, is work with everybody to bring properties into compliance. We don't want to lien properties. We don't want to take people's property. We want to make sure that people just, follow the code, and that, we give them time. We help them out, what have you.
Right. If someone purchases a property that was cited before they bought it, are they still responsible for the fines, or is it passed on?
Great question. Good job, Zach.
Thank you.
Yes, you are responsible. You buy the property, you buy the violation, or you buy the fine. Prior to a property selling, there is a process that they have to go through, and I'm talking about the realtor company or the seller or what have you. They go through a process where they look to see if there's any liens on the property. They have to do that because they have to address those liens first. If there's no liens on the property, then the title's free. They can sell the property, or the new owners can accept that lien. Now, if there are just violations on the property, like an active notice of violation on the property, the realtor usually reaches out to us and asks us about this. If there is, then the property owner, the realtor is supposed to give you that information so the property owner can go into this knowing that there are violations on the property.
Okay. And last question, how long must the property remain out of compliance before it goes to the special magistrate?
Like I said before, we do 5 to 30 days. On a standard code enforcement, you're looking at 5 to 30 days, depending upon the violation and the severity of the violation. There are other things called repeat violations that if you've already been cited by the special magistrate for a violation, you brought your property into compliance, and then same violation occurs again on your property, that's a repeat violator. Per the Florida statute, we don't have to give you time to come into compliance. We can take you straight back to the magistrate, who can then lien your property.
Okay. Cool. Thank you so much, Brian. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Joining us today. And with that, we'll see you next time for another episode of The Space Between. Bye, everybody.